Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Vagabond Dog Industry Chats. This week we have James Newnorth, founder and founder of Spelkollektivet, which is the world's largest co-op, co-working, co-living space for indie game developers. Is the best way I think I can explain it. It is a place with rooms and beds, workspace, bathrooms. There's kitchen, there's food, there's everything you need to live and work and make games. Is there any better explanation than this that you can provide in your own
Uh,
words?
I mean, there's different ones, but I like that explanation. Yeah.
Oh, um, it is, yeah. So, where is it? And I guess I'm curious to hear a little bit first and foremost how and why you founded it. What is the why do you do this thing?
Oh, that's a really long answer.
Well,
I
we
thought we
got.
only had an hour. Well, I guess there's two answers to that. One, the simple answer is like I looked at myself and my friends and figured like, what the hell are we doing? We're all making games individually, and we're all feeling like shit because we can't see each other. Because as soon as we leave the house, we get like crushed by the thought of like, well, if I don't work, I'm not gonna have food. So I need to finish this game, get it out, as well as, and then we all had our own apartments, like three room apartments in a city, paying for that, but we only really use like 2 by 2 square meters
Hmm.
because we're like sitting by the computer and then we go to bed in the couch next to us because we can't bother to go to the bedroom to sleep. So our living situation wasn't really a prioritization.
Hmm.
And yeah, for the kitchen, I mean, not it's not like any of us enjoyed cooking food, and it's not like we could cook any food that was what we wanted anyway. So it all felt like we were wasting so much resources on things we didn't need for the thing we wanted to do. And so that's one of the reasons why I started it. And then it's also like on a bigger political socioeconomics scale as well, where I look at like a whole apartment complex
Hmm.
where you can have like hundreds of people living. You have hundreds of apartments in one building, and everybody has their own kitchen. And a kitchen is easily the most expensive room you have in a apartment, and that's a lot of materials and resources wasted. And I don't see that there's a majority of people that actually enjoys cooking. It's more a thing you have to do in order to live, right? And sure, you want to cook sometimes, but not every day. So I figured, well, if we would have like taken an apartment complex and just removed every kitchen, we would have more apartments because there will be more space for apartments. It will be cheaper for everyone as well to live and such. We could also have room for a restaurant in the like bottom of the apartments where everybody has like a proper discount to be. That would create jobs for people who actually do enjoy cooking, and you just go down to the restaurant downstairs, which could be open 24/7, right? And
Hmm.
you eat there. And you don't have to waste time cooking. Someone who likes to do that and wants to have money for it can do so. And if you don't like the food that's being served there today, well, hopefully the apartment complex next to you is also serving food because they have the same concept there. So you just
Right.
go over there and eat.
Interesting. So, I mean, this is immediately triggering some notions that I've had in my head. But one, first off, I am one of those people who does like to cook, but I would happily trade my kitchen for a shared kitchen and more working space in my apartment right now. That is absolutely like I do not have enough rooms in my apartment, and I mean, like we can get into the cost like factoring of everything later, but what the complex provides and everything seems like a really tremendous value compared to the economics of having your own apartment and furnishing it and all the other trappings of modern living. But you touched on something very strong there that I've been thinking about a lot recently, and it's this notion that you should spend as much time as possible doing the thing that you are truly good at and letting other people or other services take care of the stuff that doesn't like, if I'm an indie game dev and like per hour my game making time is going to yield the most benefit, and financial income, world output, that kind of thing, I should spend as little time as possible doing all of the other things and just pay people or have services that take care of these things. And I'm curious about your thoughts on the like time optimization for indie game devs, but also versus like, I mean, there's something to having a balanced life where you're doing more than just sitting at the computer all day.
Yeah, I guess it's a very controversial topic considering people consider stuff crunch and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, for me, like programming is the best thing I can do. Like, if I only do programming, I would never burn out.
Right.
The only problem is that I also have to do admin and other shit. So when it comes to that, I can definitely burn out. So if you're doing what you love, you don't burn out. If you're doing it as a job, yeah, you're gonna burn out. So, but back to the like doing the thing you love. I'm fortunate. I love programming, so I've always had a well-paying job as a programmer, and I've since an early age I've how do you say evaluated my like what's an hour of my life worth,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the amount of money I'm willing to spend to do whatever I want. So I'm thinking like, well, I could spend 1 hour of my life doing something I really hate, and that will yield me about at least €100 or $100, whatever, per hour. So therefore, and if I'm doing something I really want to do, then I'm willing to do that for free, basically. That means that I'm basically willing to give €100 to do so, or
Right.
you could see it like that. So that puts me to like, okay, I could do 4 hours of cleaning every week,
Mm-hmm.
or I could pay someone to do 4 hours of cleaning per week for me, and they would most likely have less pay than I would have working for 4 hours. And me working for 4 hours is going to be fun because I like working.
Right, right. I mean, this is capitalism 101 at its core, but at the same time, it's like a very socially minded sort of thing where if we are all doing exclusively these like this is your role and this is your job and this is the thing that you do, and you only do that, obviously that can only work in a society, in a collective where we're definitely hitting more macro now, but in a society and collective where everybody's doing that, it can only function if everybody is fulfilling these individual roles and all the individual roles are fulfilled, versus the independence of taking care of everything yourself. It's a decision that I think people need to make, whether they want to really participate in that type of ingrained society or not.
Yeah, but as I see it, it's a very low percentage of people who actually, to be honest, give a shit about what they're working with. A majority of the people, especially people who are older than 30, don't care. They just want a job. They go there. You give me money for me doing shit. Okay, I'll do shit. That's it. They don't think about it. They don't consider how they can go better. They don't consider how they're gonna be the manager one day. They're not looking to be the CEO. They're just looking to, okay, I need somewhere to go for 8 hours a day, so I can go home and do what I actually want to do, which is just watch soccer or whatever. So not a lot of people, or like maybe at least not in the older generation, I feel, care that much about what's my future, like how am I going to grow in the company, how am I going to build a future. They're just looking to get money, and then they're focused on family life instead. So for them, taking up a job as a chef, whatever, it's not like like a carpenter, like somewhere where you just do the same thing day in day out. It's not a big deal. It's just what they want. Like the less they have to think about being creative and like making decisions, the better. There's plenty of people like that who feel like this is the best life for them, and therefore like it becomes like a nice harmony of people who rather do focus on the creative things and
Mm-hmm.
etc. I don't know.
Do
So
you,
I,
you said you mentioned the age gap there. Do you find that a lot of younger people are more focused on like expressing themselves creatively, and like why do you think that has sort of come about?
I think there's well, obviously the problem here is like I'm the older people I'm exposed to. Uh, like I'm exposed to them in situations where they are working such type of jobs where they're not creative, and for the younger people I meet, they're mainly in professions where they are creative. So my
Right.
worldview, my local worldview is a bit skewed. Maybe it's not like this, but I do sense that uh, younger people are more skewed towards creative stuff because they have the possibility of it. Like when you in older, the further back we go, the less option you had to like
Right.
really go for a creative thing. Like you didn't have the same security, you didn't have the encouragement. It wasn't encouraged by the society as much as it is now. Now it's yeah, it was more of a struggle. Like if you want to be a creative person pursuing like a musical career or whatever, want to be special, that was more like you shouldn't want to be special. Like you should
Right.
be like everyone else.
Right.
But nowadays, everybody should be special. Everybody is special.
Right, right, right.
So
The further back you go, also, it was like that's exclusively the pursuit of the wealthy. You were either a farmer working all day long, if you go far back enough, or the only people who could pursue arts and culture were the tip top of the economic elite or whatever. And now I guess it has become excessively more accessible. That's interesting. Uh, I guess one thing I've been trying to get a sense of, looking over the website, watching YouTube videos. First off, is Spelkollektivet a house, a compound, a campus? What do you call it?
well, it's I mean, we call it a house, but technically we have two houses. It's just like we have the main house, and then we have like a small, very small apartment complex.
Gotcha. Um, so what is the day-to-day life like for residents, tenants? What do we call these? Game devs?
We call them homies.
Homies.
Feels very gangsta. No, well, wake up, breakfast, and then work a little bit. Then at 10 o'clock, it's usually stand up, where we just go through, like, hey, this is what I got done yesterday. This is what I'm looking to do today. Just so we get like a little sneak peek into each other's lives. And also a possibility of like, hey, I could really use help with this. Is anyone interested in talking to me about this later? Feel free to reach out. Um, Work, then 12 o'clock, lunch, and then work, and then about 5 o'clock there's usually some kind of training session. I think there's both tai chi and boxing currently going on in the house. 6 o'clock, food again in the evening. After that there's usually activities depending on the day. So for Mondays we have mental health circle, where if you feel like you want to, like, it's all inside the house, there's no professional, it's just like people sitting down in a cozy room, just ventilating, talking about their stuff. So each have their turn, like 5 minutes, just or 5-10 minutes, just talking about how they feel, and yeah, and then whether or not they would like feedback on it. So Tuesdays, drink and draw, where both drinking and drawing is optional. So it's usually just a hangout, and some people do creative shit, and some people drink, and some people do neither. um, Wednesdays, I don't know if anything specific is booked for Wednesdays. Thursdays, we do Spelkollektivet Game Developer Conference. It's just like a streamed event where people have the opportunity to showcase what they have done the last week, both for people in the house and people outside the house. The reason we stream it is mainly because we have a lot of people who's lived here, who's doesn't anymore, but they still wanna like stay in touch and see what's going on with the projects and all that stuff. Fridays, probably stuff happening as well. I think it's anime night. Saint Carl's Anime Night or something like that. It's named after one of the people who was in the house. Yeah, there's activities happening all the time at least. So yeah.
Right. That's a lot more inclusive than I had my first impression of it. I thought it was just a living and working space, but and then I realized, oh, there's also meals, and oh, there's also activities, and there's lots of things. It's
Yeah, yeah.
it seems like a lot. How do you keep it all organized?
I don't.
Okay.
I try to organize as little as possible, like the core structure, as I see it. Think of it like a game. I'm trying to provide a solid foundation, and then I let everybody who is enjoying the game to mod it and do whatever they want with it, as long as it doesn't collide with the foundation of it and the rules of it. So I'm trying to just set up a playground with fair rules where everybody has the opportunity to be themselves and like host activities and stuff like that and meet each other.
Right. Now, I mean, obviously, I presume all of these scheduled events and meal times and work times is optional for
Yep.
for the homies, right? Um, because like I mean, I'm trying to now just like put myself in the headspace of, okay, let's say I got a job at a really big AAA studio, and they offered this schedule and cohabitation and everything. I would run for the hills. It would be something that I would be terrified of. It's like, oh God, no, this like organization is like controlling so much of my experience and my day to day and every week. What is it about the way things are run for you guys that doesn't feel like that, and it draws people in, and what do people really appreciate and get out of it, where it would be terrifying in a AAA environment?
I mean, most of what we do from the outside probably looks scary before you get in. Uh, I mean, yeah, I see your point, and I've already discussed this as well with some people in the house because we are looking to, like, we do have our own studio that we're trying to build up, and one day we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna have to hire new people, and I already now know the backlash we're gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
Because as an like suddenly when we start employing people from the outside to come here, like move here so that you can work on games here, then it's a different vibe. Like because right now everybody's here because they want to, because they're working on their own games, they have their own studios. We have no part in it. Like we're basically like a hotel, but only for game developers.
Right.
You choose your day today. We have certain things. We have food at these hours, and we have like quiet hours at these hours, etc. But outside of that, you choose what you do because we have people who works only nights. We have people who works only days, etc. We don't care about what hours you keep. Uh, but yeah, for the house services, we have set hours, of course. But
You're right. Lunch is at lunch.
yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I think it would be great for a like I would love to work at Facebook or whatever if they had such a thing. Like to me, it sounds amazing. Like okay, that you take care of everything, and all I have to do is like go to work and work. Sounds amazing to me. But that's me. I'm the type of guy who just loves to work. Um, so yeah, it's very individual, and
Mm-hmm.
as I say to people who come here, apply here, etc. Yeah, uh, hopefully you're gonna have a good time. Most do, but it's not something I expect. I don't expect this to be for everyone. Like in the end, we have like ish 50 spots here,
Right.
and there's what is it, 7 billion people on the planet. I don't need 7 billion people of the planet to like it here. I need
Yeah.
50
Yeah.
people to really like it here,
Yeah.
and that's also a part of what Spelkollektivet is to me. It's like this is my vision. This is what I want. This is how I want life to be here. Like, and I don't change a lot because of outside pressure or whatever. Like, I have my vision of this is how I want it to work. This is how I want people to behave, etc. And if you're not okay with that, well, you don't have to be here. Like, you don't have to be here if you're not happy. It's but for the people that do find it like this is exactly what I want, they're gonna be super happy, and that's okay.
That's something that I really really appreciate, actually, having a vision for how you like how you want life to be, or how you want to, you know, exist, and committing to that, and pursuing it and providing that opportunity for other people. I'm curious what the type of people who come. I mean, so first off, most people don't stay indefinitely. It's a month to month thing. What's the longest term you've ever had?
Longest term, I think Ulla moved in December 2018 is still here.
Oh wow. Okay, so some can be kind of
I mean,
indefinite.
yeah, and that's like, and we got this house, this specific house that's bigger, in October 2018. So it's not like she's
Right.
had a possibility of being here much longer than that anyway.
Right. Well, yeah, that is a pretty long time. But average, what would you say is the time span then?
Average is probably around a year then, I guess.
Wow, that's way longer than I imagined.
It's like a lot of people do 1 year. There's a lot of people that does less well as well, but we have many people that's been here for 2 3 years.
That's tremendous. I mean, that level of retention. So I mean, that means, I mean, people are building life in that environment. You can't be there for multiple years and not have your like yourself grounded in something, you know. Like when I first observed, you know, it felt like, okay, this is cool, something I would come, maybe work on a small project, couple months tops, and then, you know, come back to my normal existence. But if you're there for years, it's a really I guess there's some sort of grounding there. What is
Well, a lot of people come here because they are like, okay, I'm gonna come here for 1 week or 1 month only, but then they find out, oh, well, oh,
ah
this is different than I thought. Like, I don't want to leave.
yeah.
So, um, and like my dream goal is to create a place where you can spend your whole life, where you can see yourself actually raising a family. Uh, like I like while we right now have the main focus of game dev, this is what we're doing here, game dev. It's not the end of LO. Like it's not what I only wanted to be in the future. I wanted to be a space for people who love and are really passionate about developing games. That's
Hmm.
it. That's the thing that binds us together, and hopefully that's the one thing you do 40 hours a week at least, work on your game. But most importantly is that that's what you're passionate about. And if we have that one thing to bind us together, like many of the other things just go away. Like there's no bigger arguments, etc., because we're all here for the same reason in the end. So,
Right.
but yeah, one day I'm hoping that I could have people who can see themselves living here the rest of their lives. That's what I would like.
That's a really tremendous goal, and I mean, and a huge responsibility for yourself. What steps do you think need to be taken in order for it to be considered a viable place to move my spouse in and have kids and live appropriately as I expect to?
Well, my first goal then would be to create a bigger community. Right now we're 50 people here. Like 50 people, like you don't need to hang out with more than 50 people in your life, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like we don't. It's like 50 people close to you is pretty good. However, that's 50 people, and there's gonna be some kind of like wide range of interests and hobbies. So in many cases, like okay, even though we're 50 people, it still can be quite difficult to like, let's say, assemble a D&D group
Hmm.
because everybody has different time schedules and etc etc. So while we have a lot of people interested in role playing, we still can't really always find it. Okay, can we find 6 people who wants to do it, but also are on the same, say, like have the same time in their life for it? So, uh, and we're already looking at like the next step, which is like I would like to in 2025, how do you say, take the first shovel, take, I don't know, dig,
Hmm. Break
English,
ground.
uh, break ground for our next house, which I'm hoping can house like 1,000 people. That's the
Right.
next goal. 1,000 people. Then I feel like it's big enough so that we can provide a wider range of services, for everyone, so they actually can say, well, I can live here the rest of my life. Because if there's enough people living and paying rent, etc., we can definitely afford to have a daycare center, like someone to take care of kids in that in the house, so that you are able to have kids there and still keep working, and you're still very close to your children because they're there as
Hmm.
well. And right now we're 50 people. That means that we can serve them like one type of dish per day, or like, well, one for lunch, one for evening meal, but there's not enough room for variations. So when we get to more people, then suddenly we can go, okay, the more people we have, the more different dishes we can make. So you don't have to only eat the one
Right.
thing that's served. There's 5 different things served every day, so you can choose. So the opportunities just gets better the more people we are. So yeah.
Right. Okay, man, now that I'm thinking about breaking ground and stuff, it's got me asking. So is this property one that you guys have built, or was it bought and then?
So the story is that I got the first house, which is not this house. Uh, I rented it for a game jam. Where, like, it's a smaller house, 700 square meters, 7 bedrooms, and I rented it for a game jam. I wanted to rent it again, and they were like, "No, we're selling it," and I'm like, "I'm buying it," and they were like, "No, we already sold it," and then they didn't actually want it anymore, so they sort of wanted to sell it to me, but I couldn't afford it anymore. So I said, I borrow it, and they let me borrow it. and and then we started being on TV, radio, newspapers, and stuff for it. And then the municipality went like, yeah, this is not legal, because the house was still technically a school, because it was built as a school in 1910 or whatever.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's a bit of a fire hazard because it's wooden, it's not whatever. And they were like, but we see what you're doing, we like this, it's amazing, we want to help you. So we told the guy who's responsible for kicking you out that he's not allowed to visit this city until we found you a new house. So the guy who's in charge of like making sure everything is up to code weren't allowed to visit, and that way they could let us stay there for a while until they figured out how to solve it. And then in 2018, they called me and went like, okay, we found your house, do you want it? It's going on sale tomorrow. So I had like one day to decide whether or not we wanted this house. So we just like drove over, looked in the windows, we're like, well, we don't have a choice, this or shut down. So we took it, and it's amazing. And it used to be like an elderly home, and so it has all the facilities we need. And we figured like, oh, it's gonna take years until we're full, but it took no time at all to fill up 50 rooms. So
Oh, that's really really impressive. And how centralized in the city are you? Are you isolated at all?
it's a small town of 1,000 people. The and yeah, but it's well connected, so it's fine. But it is a small town in the middle of the forest.
Nice. I
Yeah.
like that. Um, now you mentioned that you managed to fill up pretty quickly, and I've seen on the website and stuff. You get a lot of international guests as well. Uh, what is it like having? Is there any logistical issues that you have to deal with having people from all over the world coming in? Is there, any sort of like governmental issues or anything like that you have to worry about?
Yeah. Well, mainly during COVID, because
Right.
we've been postponing a lot of our bookings from like US, UK for the summer. And we figured, okay, by the summer, we're getting vaccinated, all the numbers are down. Now we can have all the US, UK people who wanted to come here over the summer. And then Sweden just went like, well, we're not letting anyone in, like from
Right.
the US and UK. And so we lost like all of our bookings over the summer. And we've already did that once, like for the fall last year as well,
Right.
like when the news came that they were shutting down the borders. So that was kind of like, ah, shit. But other than that, no, not really. It's been quite easy, and we've always been a minority of Swedish people here. Swedish people in general likes to be alone. So this concept isn't for Swedish people in general.
Right. Man, it is a fascinating. Now, I've preface. I have had some personal experience in co-living environments before, both just general co-living environments, and then also game development specifically. And I am aware that with any situation where you have a bunch of people together, inevitably you have social problems and social conflicts can arise. How do you guys manage that interpersonal drama that can develop whenever you've got 50 plus people in a single environment?
Yeah, so I have the good fortune of hating people and thinking the worst of people, which makes me able to sort of like, okay, what's the how are people gonna be, and try to counteract it. So I try to think of, yeah, I just imagine how people are, and it's usually the shittiest type of people, and therefore I try to solve those issues before it is. And in other cases, it's just like, okay, I know people are not going to do this, do that, do this. And therefore, well, then I'm going to hire people who does that, so that I don't have to rely on people being decent human beings for that, especially cleaning and stuff. Sure, we're at a very limited budget because we have no investors, or like I funded this like from my own pockets basically,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm in deep debt still because of it. But So it's slowly getting better. Like it's just like last year we could finally afford to actually hire cleaners. But yeah, so those things are gradually getting better. And for other things, it's more of like people understand uh, why they're here, and that sometimes things are shit. And in many cases it's just about someone has to take the blame, and I'm willing to take the blame for it. So when there are issues that comes up with, I don't know, infrastructure, logistics and other stuff like that, I'm all for taking the blame, and it's my fault. We will try to fix this one day.
Right. It's very interesting to hear that perspective on people, or your lack of, your lack of esteem for the average person, and yet here you are building an environment for people. What is it then that you mostly get out of this personally?
um it's I've always liked strategy games. To me, it's almost like playing Prison Architect.
Okay.
No, but yeah, I'm quite introverted. I don't really enjoy hanging out with people that much unless we're talking work. Like I only like to talk work, board games, strategy, stuff like that. Anything that's outside of that, I'm not interested unless it's we're trolling about politics and stuff, where I don't actually care about anything we talk about. I just like, okay, who can say the most absurd shit? That's it. More interest in that I don't have talking with people. So, and I think that's also like, I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. To me, it's just like a fun project. Nobody's done it. I wouldn't do it if it already existed. So I don't know. I don't really have a good question for it because a lot of people ask me why I do this, and it's just because I felt like it was needed. Someone has to do it,
Hmm.
and I need a reason to do some like I feel like I have to justify my life, and I feel like this is the project that could actually have a proper impact on people's lives, and possibly even like if I try to make it political, it could even have like a political stance on like how I think we should look to the future and live in the future, because I really dislike the whole concept of us trying to change every place on earth to be the same, because I don't think everybody wants to be the same in the end. We all want to be individual, and I think that it's better to like let people be individual, and I don't know, instead of trying to make everyone be the same. I don't know. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah, it makes some sense. Makes some sense at least.
Yeah, it's all like
I'm curious then to talk a bit about the economics of it. I mean, I live in a pretty expensive city. I'm in Toronto, Canada.
mm,
Uh, Living at Spelkollektivet would be cheaper for me.
yeah,
Um, it's
even in Sweden. So even in Sweden, an apartment our chef, for example, her new apartment is 40 square meters, and she would be paying 500 crowns, like 50
Mhm.
euros or $50 US dollars, more in rent for her apartment, bare bone, like no electricity,
Yeah.
stuff like that, than she would if she would lived here, where she also get electricity, heating, water, internet, and food.
So how is this possible then? Is it just the geography of being in the small town? Is it the
No, but
really
that apartment is also in a small town, so uh, it's both small town, of course, and it's about, well, I'm not running it with a profit. I'm not looking to do a profit with the housing. Like all the money we get in, it's put back into investments, like within the house, like buying new chairs, etc., stuff like that. So it's uh, it's not run with the intention of making money. Not that, at least not from rent. Like I have other ideas of how we could make money without how do you say, making money because people are paying rent and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like in the end, I'm even like when we reach the point where we're at the point where we're like with 1,000 people, I'm hoping we're even at the point where we can go like half the rent or no rent, because I'd rather set a standard or a bar of like, this is what we expect out of you, and this is how you're going to contribute to the community, and therefore you can live here for free. And that sounds very culty, but when I say contribute to community, I mean like, hey, every month you're going to do like a 1 hour workshop on a topic. You
Mhm.
choose a topic, it's game dev related, or what, you're going to give back knowledge to people here. Like that type of thing. Like that would be awesome for me. Like if we could foster that type of community and people, and we only bring in the most passionate people to live here, and they can live here for free. All they have to do is share their knowledge.
Right. So I have seen not in a game dev sense, but I have seen this model at play before. I've lived this model at play before.
Okay.
Um and I mean, I don't like realistically, I think in order to get enough value out of the individual living for free and in a space, they're going to have to do more than 1 hour of workshop. It's there inevitably comes more work with sustaining 1,000 people. Then you're going to need this a level of output from the individual in order to justify that free space. And the problem I
And
always had in those environments was I'm living for free, I'm existing for free, but I'm not retaining anything. I'm not making any savings. I'm not um, doing any. You think that the game dev side of things offsets that?
well, everybody who would be living here for free would still be building their own company, building their own games,
Mm-hmm.
making their own money. So, like, it's not like they would give away their money or anything like that. It's like all that shit is the same as if they were living in their own apartments. It's just like suddenly they have the opportunity of actually doing this full time without taking a second job. Like, or well, the second job being that they would have to follow our rules and doing like the knowledge sharing thing, etc. Like rules would be, for example, well, you should attend a stand up, like you should do this and that, because it fosters a good community of like sharing and like succeeding together. But and for the money, like if you put it like this, PewDiePie alone with his fucking money, he could fund this.
Well, yeah,
That's one person's uh, online presence. Because I mean, that could fund it. You don't. Yeah, he produces videos, yes, but does he produce like it? He doesn't sell anything physical, to make this money. And the game industry, like it's like if we our own studio would make one proper game, like one proper game, then we would never have to charge rent again,
right.
because it's the global market is so big, and it like the scope of money, like, yeah, like this house itself, it's 2,400 square meters, 12,000 square meters land, and I can buy this house for we got this house for 200,000 euros. It's 200,000 US dollars.
Yeah.
That's nothing for a building like this, and it's and it's no money at all. Like, and
Right. Yeah. But yeah. Especially, I mean, if you have a genuine hit game, then that the economics obviously work out. I think. I mean, not to be too contrarian, but this is also something that a lot of indie studios, they'll be like, oh, if our game's a hit, then all of our expenses and everything becomes immediately justified. Well, of course, yes, but games and the games industry is so weird and fickle and unpredictable that guaranteeing we get that hit is like a real point of risk, and something that would weigh on me heavily. And I'm curious how you approach that.
it's uh it's all about working towards it slowly and like following your passion and dreams. Like, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Like, it's not the end of everything. Like, for now, like we make do with rent,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm hoping that we are able to reach the next step somehow. How? Not sure. We'll see. But for now, like, the way we do it, it's working and it's driving us forward.
Right. And I will say, having said that, I have looked through a very few of the games. I recognize a few of the games that have come from the homies staying there. Can you go over some of the titles that have come from at least some stay?
Well, we have Death and Taxes is one of the big ones. I think I don't know if I should say any numbers, but it's done
No
very
numbers,
well.
no numbers. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like they can live of their money they made from that for many years. Like, and that's just the thing. Like, it's so much money. Like, if you can never do, you don't have to do anything for many years. That's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
An even bigger one, I think. Like, what's that game? Uh, Teardown? No, wait, not Teardown. I don't know. Some kind of a game with voxels where you're
Yeah,
supposed to make a
it's
heist.
Teardown.
Teardown?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's the thing we should call Teardown.
Yeah. So the guy who was designing the levels and working on that in 2018 or 2019 here, he was doing that, and I think that sold like over 500,000 copies already. Kraken Academy just got released and it's doing really well. And then Lords and Villains is being released or in early access soon. What more? I mean, there's plenty. I'm just very bad at remembering things.
So, I mean, there are absolutely then titles that have come through with prestige, and with notoriety. Is there anything that you do or the collective does, to capitalize on that notoriety in the gaming space?
Not really. I try to make sure that we don't. I mean, or rather, I'm very, how to say, self-conscious about. I hate when people try to take credit for shit that's not
Right.
really theirs.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, sure, like when I'm sitting at the dining table here, I can like joke about, well, that game wouldn't happen if it wasn't for us. But yeah, I would never go out and say that we had anything to do with any of those games. Like, yeah, they were here, and we gave them like with anyone here. Like, we gave them motivation. We cheered them on. We like, but they would have done it anyway without us.
Right.
Like,
Right.
hopefully they felt like they got something out of this. But yeah,
It's
and
there's an interesting distinction there, versus between the collective and something like like being part of a publisher, where when you're within a publisher, the success of one title brings up all the others by association because it's under the same umbrella or in the same boat, and that can lead to really good things happening in the marketplace and more success. But
if I was smart, I would try to capitalize on that for everyone's sake. The thing is, I'm not. I feel like it's sort of sleazy, so
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
open for
feel
it,
you.
but it has to come from their side. I'm not gonna like I'm not gonna try to put up a bundle of the
Mm,
games so that it benefits the house in some way. I don't know. It's yeah. I try to separate that like completely. It so all that type of things has to come from the developers in such case, because as soon as I start meddling in their business, that's the point where people are gonna be like, should we go to Spelkollektivet? Because I don't know, because they feel like
right,
then they would start giving up rights, or like I don't know, feel like they owe us something.
right,
Because
right, right.
I don't want anyone to feel like they owe us anything because they happen to be here when they made their game. They pay rent. That's what they did. That's enough.
Right. Yeah, that's the defining line, I suppose, between the what you have and that horrible AAA situation I presented at the start of the chat. Um, it is interesting. Yeah, it is weird because like man, that for me that temptation would be very very strong because if you know we can collectively raise the profile of everybody's games there, but then you start getting into um I guess more scrutiny in the application process. Well, you do have an application process as it stands, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's mainly about checking in so that their how to say expectations of the house is correct for what they're gonna get, and that they're coming here for the right reasons. A lot of people come here because they like playing games, and this is not the place for them.
Right, right, right. Yeah. I mean, do you ever have people who arrive with? Have you had any bad instances where people have come with the wrong expectations? Is that why you have the screening process now?
We've always had a screening process, but uh, I mean, we've had times where it hasn't worked out. Yeah, for sure. Uh, I'm really good at suppressing bad memories. So,
No, it's okay. We
uh,
don't know. No, I didn't mean to. It's
but yeah,
not what I was getting at.
I can't think of any like on top of my head where it went like, okay, this was obviously a
Right,
bad fit,
right.
uh, like that.
Nobody set
But
the
yeah,
place on fire. Good. Okay. Very good. You also have another program there called the Indie Quest, which I have dived into looking at a little bit, but it's an education program for people interested in indie game development with a semi-scheduled curriculum that takes place for residents there. Can you give me a bit of more information on this?
it's a school more or less.
Okay.
So or rather, we it started as a school, but we're trying to see it more like a life philosophy. So when you're a quester, as we call it here, you're a student of life. You how do you say you take on the role of like life is about learning. It's a you keep learning. Like you never just learn something and then never learn again. You like it's just like a
Mm-hmm.
mentality of always be learning, right? But then the school aspect is that yes, we have a curriculum and it's a part of the Swedish system as well, so that it's like government supported, and like if you go here as a Swedish citizen, you can get funding for like attending and stuff like that. But unlike any other school, it's also completely free regardless. So even if you don't do it via the Swedish government, you can attend this school for free, even as a foreigner as well.
Interesting. That's interesting. I am for free education, but I am personally a person who does not really believe in formalized education in any aspect,
This is not
especially
formalized.
when it
Right.
comes to indie games. It's pretty tough to. Um, but I'm curious, what makes it work then?
So I would love it if you would if I could convince our learning designer to have a chat with you as well about this topic. But so we are doing the how do you say? We've looked at lot at the school 42. It's called, I think, in the Silicon Valley, where it's not about like you don't have a teacher like lecturing. So we
Hmm.
have the reversed classroom model, where it's more like in the school hours, you get your assignments, you get the learning materials, and you get what you're supposed to do, and you read it at your own pace, and you do the missions, as we call it, during the school hours, and that's when you can get help with it. And your homework is to read materials to learn. So you learn off hours, if there was off hours. Like we don't actually how to say it, give homework even when you live here. So you read the materials, look at the video, etc., and then you execute missions, and then you can get help with the missions during the school hours from a teacher. But in traditional school, you listen to someone preach for 2 hours, 1 hour, 2 hours, and then they say, "Hey, here's a bunch of assignments. Go home and do them." Right? Who's gonna help you at home? Like, cause
Google.
yeah, yeah, but it's ridiculous because like the teacher is the one person that could help you, and they're not there at home, right?
Right.
So yeah, so it's a bit of a different way, and this allows us to let people take the time they need because they don't have to attend like a lecture where someone's telling them about things. It's like you have everything you need to know is in this document. Read this as many times as you want, as fast and slow as you want. Once you've understood this material, you should be able to complete these assignments. And if you can't, then you have a teacher that can help you with it. Or even better, you can talk to the other questers in your class so that they have an opportunity to learn more by having to explain the problem in a different setting.
Is this program for like I'm just starting, I've never touched an IDE before, I've never opened a game engine before? Is this for
Both.
intermediary? How do you scale it? Would I as a nearly 10-year veteran who's very set in his ways, what would I get out of it if I attended?
So we do, for the programming part, we do take them from never having touched programming at all to actually making 2-3 games. As someone who's really skilled already, I think the best thing you would get out of it is, uh, I mean, there's the later projects where you have to learn more about how do you structure your game and how do you plan your game, etc. Like as a project. A lot of the people who has been learning on their own at home, for example, yeah, you know all the programming parts, but there's also parts about how to work, how to plan a project properly, how to size it up in advance before you start coding it. That's good to know as well. And then we have the art curriculum as well, where you actually get to learn how to do art. And Matej, our teacher, he's very adamant on anyone can learn anything, and even art. I'm the type of guy who goes like, yeah, I'm not artistically born, I can't do it. But he's like, everybody can do it. It's the same as programming. You just have to learn the set of rules and apply them. So it's a very like I don't know if it says like it's a functional way of how to learn how to do art, and it's quite amazing to see people who are like on their first assignments are drawing like stick figures, and then suddenly they're actually drawing like proper things at the end of it, and it's like you actually learned this, and to me that's amazing. So I'm hoping to actually attend the art curriculum myself one day.
Yeah, learning is always good. I'm very pro learning, and if there's whatever environment is, I mean, for me personally, it's always been just like hammer my face against a problem on my own until I solve it. But I know there's a breadth of the ways people need to learn and can learn and learn best. So I really do appreciate that there are other formats out there rather than just suffering in silence all alone.
Yeah.
Um,
I would like to add, like, the main goal of this school is to give you all the tools you need to be an indie developer. So afterwards, you would be able to make your own game properly, like, and start your own company or do it with someone else. Uh, but yeah, you're not getting a AAA job, but you're definitely gonna be so far along that you could have the how do you say, the portfolio you need in order to get into those more specialized schools to become a AAA developer.
Right. You just mentioned it there, and that was another thing that I saw on the site is that you can go from starting to understanding how to have an indie game company, and that's a whole nother track of education in there, and I'm curious the approach there in terms of, do you guys deal with like how to sell your game, how marketing, or is that a level beyond?
Informally, we do, yes. The same thing with like game design. We don't teach game design because there's no, at this level of the Swedish school system curriculum, there's no courses that we could like. So currently, these courses we have are all based upon like other courses like programming or visual design or whatever. So it has nothing to do with game development from the government side. We just took this course and went like, we can push game development into this and make, we can do games and it will fulfill all the criteria of these courses, but we're only teaching game development. But there's no such thing for game design specifically, so we're not teaching game design. But that's the big benefit of being in the house, is that you are surrounded by game developers, professional game developers making real games, and you're showcasing your game all the time. So you're always gonna have people to give you feedback and test your game, etc., and help you. Hey, you should think about this when you're making this game and stuff like that. And for example, on the 16th of October now, we're having one of those arcade games where we just invite everybody to come into the house and play all the games in the house and get some proper feedback on it.
That's a great setup. I guess one of the last things we can touch on, I mean, you mentioned it briefly, but you guys do a Twitch stream weekly, which is a showcase of the members highlighting current projects and stuff. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and where to find it?
Yeah, it's on Twitch, Twitch TV/Spelkollektivet. And yeah, 8 o'clock every Thursday, 8 o'clock CEST. I don't know, Central European System Time. I don't know. We do, yeah, just a short showcase where people have the opportunity to showcase their games. And it's very, how to say, loosey goosey and weird. Yeah, it's just a fun time.
That's cool. Yeah, it's a nice opportunity to, I guess, have audience outside of the people in the house and everything. Have you guys?
It's very targeted to game developers, however, because we're showing concept art and very early prototypes, which like makes no sense if you're a gamer, perhaps. So it's very much targeted to other game developers to enjoy things. And then sometimes some lunatic comes in and does a 20-minute talk about how he was like sailing in a Viking boat for some reason.
Sounds good.
It happened, and I wasn't sure what's going on. Why are we looking at someone like pictures of someone sailing?
Content. It's content, baby.
Yeah.
That's really great. I guess as we wind down here, is there anything else you want to tell the people? Anywhere you want to point them if they're curious or interested in possibly attending? Where can they apply and all that stuff?
Well, we're currently sort of almost fully booked until mid 2022, and I really don't like making bookings more than 3 months ahead. So I don't know, but join our Discord, I guess, to talk to our people, our community. Join our Twitch stream, and if you're interested in coming here, hit me up, and yeah, we'll see if we can make room. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, it has been, I mean, really eye-opening having this discussion, both about like the way we live as humans and what the benefits of some sort of your style of community living for game developers can provide. I want to thank you for coming on, and I guess we'll say goodbye for now.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So long, everybody. I'll see you doing more work soon. Bye.
Bye.